Hello, everyone, and welcome to Neutral Game. I am Colin Detmar, your host today.
And I am Myrdor Kovacevic, aka Real Soviet Bear. Hello. I'm your co-host today.
I'm excited to be with you here today, guys, because this is our first episode post-Evolution 2017. And, man, a lot went down, huh?
Yeah, I was sadly on vacation, so my main source of everything was just Twitter, and me being very sad that I was missing all these things, but I tried to catch up.
I missed a lot of the announcements, which will be what we're first getting into before we talk about results. But it's almost more fun to get the announcements via Twitter because just like, you pull up your Twitter and you just see like, some fighting game people you follow on Twitter just like tweeting like, in all capital letters, and you're like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, I felt the same way I felt about the Nier Automata announcement just several times in a row.
There was a lot. So I guess we should start with ArcSys had a couple of announcements, one of which was a new game. They announced BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle.
Yeah, I'm very annoyed with myself that I didn't predict that, because it makes perfect sense that they would just recycle the billion sprites they've done and make a new game with them.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, the four, as we know it right now, there are four, God, I hate to say it, but like IPs involved in BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle because it is a crossover game. And also, as the name suggests, it's a tag battle game. It's a BlazBlue game, so centrally it stars the BlazBlue characters. It also includes the characters from Under Night in Birth, Late EXE, or is it EXE Late? I always mix that up. Or Uniel, as is commonly known, which is a game by French Bread, which is the studio that also made Melty Blood. You may have heard their name around. They're a weird little studio. They make good games, but they're a weird little one. We also have characters from the Persona series and Persona 4 Arena specifically, though we may be bigger than that. And we also have characters from the Rooster Teeth Western like CG anime Ruby, which was
that was pretty
surprising.
Random. Yeah, that was. I don't think anybody could have expected that.
No. So do you have a history, what is your history with these different franchises?
I played Persona 4 Arena. I really liked it, but I haven't played the actual Persona 4 game, so it felt a bit like I was cheating. I played the Under Night in Birth for like 2 months, and it's really, really good, except the character I played in Under Night in Birth was a guest character from Akatsuki Blitzkampf, which is an even more obscure game, so I'm not expecting that character to reappear in this, but maybe they will, who knows.
Which character is that?
It's Akatsuki.
Oh, okay, yeah, he did look a little... I was not familiar with Uniel. Uniel is a game that I've always intended to look at and never got around to. And this was my prompting to say, okay, what the fuck is this game? And I really took a good look.
Yeah, Under Night in Birth is something like... I don't know if it's set in the same universe as, Melty Blood, maybe, but I also know that, Akatsuki is a guest character from another small doujin fighting game called Akatsuki Blitzkampf, which is famous for... everyone looking like Nazis, and there also being a giant tank as a character. And also, Akatsuki guessed in one or two more fighting games that were also super obscure. So I don't know if they're just going to recycle his sprite or not, and just use him in this one because he plays pretty nicely. And I don't know anything about Rooster Teeth's thing. I only know that that IP franchise exists, and it involves ladies wearing distinct colored clothing and having enormous weapons.
So, interestingly enough, I actually have seen, they have 4 seasons of the show. I have seen 3 of them. It's complicated to call me a fan. I started watching because I was curious. Whenever a Western show is clearly trying to do anime, I just find that as a cultural idea really fascinating. And I think RWBY is kind of a bumpy ride, but there's some really cool ideas in there. And I think overall, like, I'm not gonna like diss the show. There's some really cool shit in there. But it feels like the most natural. Like, actually, once you get over it's the most unnatural weird pick, it starts to feel like the most natural pick because like all the weapon design in that show is the most Guilty Gear fucking shit.
Yeah.
Like, there's a person who has a hammer that turns into a grenade launcher. The main character has a scythe that can turn into a sniper rifle or a machine gun. It's just all these morphing, weird, impractical weapons that is exactly right.
So basically a bunch of BlazBlue characters.
Completely. I mean, I think, there's obviously a little bit, like, you can see some of the Western sensibilities in the design, but like, oh yeah, no, this is right up their alley. So
yeah, I'm pretty happy because I was wondering when we'd come back to these weird sprite crossover things, because after like the 2D sprite era, when you had SNK versus Capcom or the old Marvel versus Capcom games and stuff like that, they just lifted the sprites directly, just like copy pasted them. But then, like, as graphical fidelity got higher and more complicated in 3D, it's kind of harder to just throw in models because poly count differences are much easier to spot. So I'm kind of happy that they're just getting all these sprites they have together. But also because they announced that RWBY thing, that means they're not above creating completely original stuff. So maybe they'll make sprite versions of Guilty Gear characters. Maybe they'll throw in some other franchises. Who knows? Maybe they'll draw a Tekken character.
Maybe. It's exciting, and I want to see more.
Yeah.
And real quick, that was not the only announcement that ArcSys had. They also had some Dragon Ball stuff, but I don't feel like informed. I haven't been paying enough attention to really comment that much. I think they announced Trunks.
They announced future Trunks, not stable timeline Trunks.
Yeah, with Dragon Ball, I'm going to be getting that game. I don't know Dragon Ball enough for character announcements to mean very much to me. He's the one with the sword. I guess swords are cool.
Yeah.
The other announcement they had was for BlazBlue, which was they are finally putting Jubei in the game after
forever.
What, 8 years?
After Calamity Trigger, basically.
Right. I'm just trying to remember when Calamity Trigger came out, but it's been a long fucking time.
It was something like 2008 or 9. I can't remember.
It says 2010. So yeah, 7 years of basically sort of on and off teasing Jubei we're finally getting.
Yeah, I think their quote-unquote main concern about Jubei was his height, because they got burned really badly when they did Battle of Fantasia, because they had a very small character and he more or less broke the game for them. And, even if people said they didn't care, when you develop something as a company and you get bad feedback, it kind of sticks for years. So I've been saying for a while, the moment they announce Jubei is the moment they say, okay, we're done with, like, BlazBlue, as in, like, this set of BlazBlue. So if they announce any other character after Jubei for, like, Central Fiction, I will be surprised. I think after this, the next mainline BlazBlue fighting series is going to be in the Guilty Gear engine. It's just going to be a reset of the roster.
Yeah, I mean, like, they've set, like, I won't spoil much for the story for people who haven't completed the story of BlazBlue Central Fiction, but they certainly fucking set it up for a roster reset.
Yep, it's going to be a roster reset, because first off, it's Jubei, which was the most problematic character, so they're finally putting him in, so I'm feeling that they're just trying to put in a neat bow at the end. And also, they announced a BlazBlue cross-tag battle thing, and usually when you go that route, it's kind of like, okay, we're done with this, we're just going to use this to its full potential and then move on to the next thing. At least that's what it looks like to me from, like, a production point of view.
Yeah, I totally agree. I will say I find it really funny that after all these years of like, what are we gonna do? Jubei's so short. How are we gonna make this work? Apparently, someone just said, "What if we just made him taller?" Because that's he's just taller than he actually is.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're gonna go into the visual novel mode and just like slightly edit his sprite so it's like a few inches higher on the screen. It's like,
Maybe.
do what you gotta do, but it's kind of funny to me.
I mean, it could have been worse. They could have just given him a hat.
Sure. They could have done a lot of terrible things. I don't know. I'm excited. I think I've made it clear that BlazBlue is my favorite modern fighting game. And I was worried that with the way Central Fiction's story ended, that it was going to be like, okay, well, now we're done with BlazBlue. Guilty Gear all the time, every time.
Yeah, no, I think they're going to do them parallel, and I'm pretty sure... like, what makes, like, at least to me, what makes the most business sense is... you see how, like, in the short term right now, they're kind of alternating updates for Guilty Gear and BlazBlue? Like, oh, it's Revelator 2, and now it's Central Fiction 2, and they're just going to alternating announcements and big stuff for them. Honestly, I think what they'll do is probably get a 3D BlazBlue and then just alternate big stuff for them, like on a yearly basis. Like this year it's a lot of Guilty Gear stuff, this year it's a lot of BlazBlue stuff, and just go between those two.
Makes sense. It is kind of a neat thing. I'm sure a lot of our listeners are newer to fighting games and are not so familiar with BlazBlue's origins, which is that ArcSys, as is probably clear by now, are the people that also made Guilty Gear. And then for a while, the rights to Guilty Gear got tied up and they couldn't make Guilty Gear games. So they created BlazBlue basically to have, a similar style of 2D fighter while they couldn't make Guilty Gear.
And they confirmed at the time, because they thought they would never get the rights to Guilty Gear back, that basically, you're getting BlazBlue, you're never getting Guilty Gear again.
Right. And then they got Guilty Gear back, and as you can tell from Guilty Gear Xrd, they really went ham. They were really excited to have Guilty Gear back, and really, I think it's fair to say they kind of left it all out on the field. That game, however I may feel about how it plays, I don't enjoy playing it that much, but like, man, they fucking went for it with that game. It's incredible.
Yeah, and just before we move on from Arc System stuff, a hidden hint teaser thing for Guilty Gear, I guess. It was in one EVO interview with Daisuke Ishiwatari, who is the lead director, producer, composer, character designer for Guilty Gear. They asked him which character he'd like to put in next, and he said he would love to put in Robo-Kai, and that made me very happy.
Yeah, I know you're a big Robo-Kai fan, and I have not played Robo-Kai, but your description of him makes him sound a lot more interesting than some of the characters I tried. I should give Guilty Gear another shot. My problem with it is I didn't like playing as any of the characters, and I only played Sign. I haven't played Revelator or Revelator 2, so I should try again.
Check out Answer. He's a businessman ninja. He's pretty good.
Baiken seems pretty cool too.
Yeah. Anyway, off to less exciting character announcements.
Yeah. So
you can.
Do you want to?
Yeah. Okay. It's very hard to decide who should just deliver this.
So Street Fighter V was the end of the night. We'll backtrack for a couple announcements after this, but it was a day of fucking incredible announcements, and Street Fighter almost always announces something. So everybody's like, oh man, what has Capcom got to bring? This is going to be, they better bring their A game. And they brought a new Street Fighter V character for everybody. They also brought a new Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite character, but I honestly don't care. But the new Street Fighter V character is another character from Final Fight, who I did not remember was from Final Fight when I first saw them. It is Abigail, who is a tougher but random enemy in Final Fight, who is now this 8'4" monstrosity.
He's basically Hugo but taller.
Hugo but taller with car tires around his biceps,
and a tired gimmick to him, car gimmick, whatever, because he has tires on his biceps and he's from Mad Gear, and gears are used in cars, and he makes a car sound when he arrives to the stage, and I don't know what they're thinking. It's kind of like, you know, I always feel when you create characters or a universe, if you make something ridiculous but don't take it seriously, it's much different from when you make something ridiculous for the sake of it. So, like, Abigail looks like somebody thought, let's make a ridiculous character, and then just threw in dumb ideas. Whereas if you look at something at, like, I don't know, Guilty Gear, and you look at Faust, you know, he's super ridiculous, but it seems like they were serious when they made him.
Yeah, I think you're right. And there are a lot of, I feel like in a lot of ways, Abigail represents a lot of the design that Yuke's, no, not Yuke's, that's wrestling games. Who are the people who are making, like, Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 5? I always forget the studio's name.
Oh, right, it's, on the Dimps.
Dimps, yes. It represents a lot of the problems I have with the way Dimps has been building Street Fighter. I don't know their history with fighting games beyond Street Fighter, but I don't really love a lot of the way they design stuff, because they have this tendency to do, like, sort of like a visuals first presentation on stuff, where, like, I mean, like, a classic example from Street Fighter 4 and 5 is how Zangief's spinning pile driver, his SPD, has this motion where he sort of does this, like, hug grab at the air, and the hitbox is almost 3 times as big as what it looks like, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason you do that is because they designed the animation without considering the effective on it, and then they balanced it from there, right?
Yeah.
They're just like, okay, this is what it does, and then irrespective of that, what is its range? And I feel like that's bad design, especially for people like I think listen to our podcast, for newer players, because it just, like, you can't trust your eyes in those games.
Yeah,
it's really frustrating.
Yeah, I've had that issue a lot with Street Fighter V, where I just I can't tell whether a move is like a medium or a hard or like you can only, like, tell the jabs apart. But when you have, like, the medium and the hard punches or kicks, it's just, I don't know what's what, and you have, like, specific reactions to them. So yeah, I don't like it either. I don't like Abigail, like, on a visual level. I think it's okay to have a super tall character, because it kind of reminds me of old SNK games like Samurai Showdown, where you had the super giant characters, or some of the old King of Fire characters that were super tall. But also SNK stopped doing them, and there's probably a good reason why they did. So I'm kind of surprised by this callback. I don't hate it, but I really think the character looks boring. Like, you could have done a massive character to be anything else, but no, you decided to make, like, a car cosplayer. I don't even know.
And, like, a lot of those games, like, okay, like Sentinel in Marvel vs. Capcom is a big character, but, like, there are a lot of combos in that game that are Sentinel specific because his hitbox is so big, right?
Yeah.
That's not the case with Abigail. I've seen a lot of videos going around of people who are pretty upset testing stuff against Abigail, where, like, if he's crouching, he's still taller than most of the characters in the game. He still fills the entire screen, but attacks that whiff on crouching people whiff on him, even though they're, like, passing through his chest.
Yeah, that's pretty hardcore.
That's just crappy design. I'm sorry. Like, maybe it's good balance, but you need people to be able to look at something and understand what's happening. You need people to be able to trust the visuals.
It's a very systemic approach, because how you go about it is, okay, this guy is crouching. Every character is immune to these things while crouching, ergo this character should be immune to it. But then, and then you just ship it like that. But what you should do sometimes in design is make exceptions. Like, okay, should we make an exception to this rule for Abigail? Does it make sense? And I think making exceptions like that is good, because you can't really stick to your template for the entire game. Like, the more characters you have, the more the template is going to fall apart.
Mm-hmm. And he seems like he has pretty ridiculous damage as well, so...
Yeah, I'm just like... None of the characters in Street Fighter are particularly memorable to me. Like in Street Fighter 5, like there was that like Russian lady with the freezing and the parry, and I was like, oh, this looks interesting. And then apparently somebody else got released in the meantime, and I didn't even notice. Rather, I noticed them, but I forgot about them because they were so bland. To the point where he was in the Abigail trailer, and I was like, wait, who is this? He looks like a generic grunt.
Yeah. Side note, I don't know whether to be happy or sad that the ice lady you're referring to's name is Colin, but
Right, that's
we have that in common.
yeah.
With a K, though, but, because Russia.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on to greener pastures now that we're done with that obligatory thing. Arika X Fighter showed off more stuff. And I am very happy because I played a lot of Street Fighter X as a kid. And finally, after all these years, we have a game with Skullomania again. And I am beside myself with joy, even if I don't sound like that right now.
It was really something. I was at work, and I checked my phone, and at first I thought it was like an announcement of him for Street Fighter V, and I was like, damn it, I have to get Street Fighter V now. And I was like, oh great, I don't have to get Street Fighter V. I was glowing. It was so exciting to have this character back.
For those who don't know, Skullomania is a used car salesman. That was at least before he got retconned, but he was a used car salesman in Street Fighter X who dresses like basically a Day of the Dead style skeleton and has a scarf and fights like a Power Ranger style character, like a super show-off martial artist. And ever since Street Fighter X, like Street Fighter X was this weird thing from this studio where it was like half of the characters are our characters, the other half are Street Fighter characters, and then the rights for the original characters ended up in limbo. Like Capcom could never reuse them. And there has been this very vocal, small group of people who have been asking Capcom for Skullomania since forever. And they said, oh, we can't do that, we aren't able to do that, and now they just appear with Skullomania. Arika. And it's like, okay, now I don't have to care about Street Fighter V.
It's a thing, like, I know they retconned Skullomania's backstory, but they also retconned it to something really great. Are you familiar with the retcon version?
It's something about him and his evil brother and fighting for the fate of the world.
No, you must be mixing it up with someone. Okay, his retcon version is that he's a Japanese businessman who was terrible at his job.
No, that was the original one.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the original.
They retconned it? I looked it up recently. I didn't notice any changes.
I know he has 2 stories or something like that. I can't remember anymore, but I'll just go with he was the failed businessman that put on a suit to be a mascot for something. I think his company was selling used cars.
Right, he puts on this costume to try and sell more stuff, and he's like, actually, this is the real me, and he quits his job and goes off to fight for justice, and it's just the greatest.
Yes, I hope they keep that version. But yeah, it looks really good. Like, it looks very... Oh god, the speed looks very, like, PlayStation 1 era, but when I say PlayStation 1 era, like, I don't mean Tekken or Virtua Fighter style. Like, there was this one category of 3D fighters that were like, Street Fighter X, Battle Arena Toshinden, and stuff like that played very fast, like a 2D fighting game, even though it was fully 3D. So, it has like this very chopped off animation that makes it look, I don't know, faster, I guess. So, it definitely looks different in motion when you look at the gameplay trailers than anything on the market. Like, Tekken is super smooth, Street Fighter is smooth, Guilty Gear looks like it's animated, and this doesn't look like it's animated, but everything moves like it's animated, like it's an anime. It's weird to explain. I suggest people just watch footage of it.
Yeah, but Skull of Magic is back. Believe in the Skull of Dream.
Yeah, I'm getting that game like day one. Can't wait. And let's just do the final announcement before we talk about the tournament. My favorite announcement, actually, and I think we talked about this on the last podcast, or maybe we talked it outside of the podcast, how King of Fighters characters would be better for Tekken as guest characters.
Mm-hmm.
And we got Geese Howard.
Yep, we got the best King of Fighters villain, maybe the best King of Fighters character. That's a hard claim to make, but definitely the best King of Fighters villain.
Yes,
Geese Howard.
Geese Howard, the super evil martial artist businessman who basically looks down upon everyone and parries everyone and just kills weak people because he can.
He has the best English. I really hope they, like... He has classic lines like, "I'll stain my hands with your blood." Of course, there's the good predictable when you get a counter. If you get a super counter, it's die forever. It's just the most, like, beautiful.
They are keeping
and also he's just fun.
I don't know if you know this, but when he says predictable, he actually, in the trailer, he actually says, even though the voice actor is English, he says predictable.
Yeah, the weird thing is it seemed like different voice actors for him, like, in cutscene versus in the game. And maybe it was just an affectation, but, like, in the cutscenes, he was just speaking normal English, and then you'd get in the game and he'd be fucking, Englishing it up like crazy. And it was a weird mix. But
Tekken has a precedent for that because they have gone on record as saying that they have been using certain sound effects from Tekken 3 up until Tekken 6 or 7, even though the characters gained voice actors for story modes, simply because people would get used to the audio cues, and if they change the audio cues, because the moves are still the same as in old Tekkens, people would get upset. So I think they may have re-recorded stuff now, but for the longest time, like, I'm pretty sure in the PlayStation 3 games, they had old PlayStation 1 sound files.
okay, if that's the case, then they almost certainly took files from just KOF 14, right?
Probably.
Now, the thing that the trailer showed everything you wanted them to show, right? It showed you the Reppuken, which is his classic projectile. It showed you Raging Storm, which is his super. It showed you his counter, of course, the good predictable. And it also showed you him countering a bunch of rage arts.
Yep.
So, obviously, this is the character you should pick online and just counter everybody's rage arts.
Yeah, I am definitely going for this as my secondary as soon as he's released, because that is really good. Like, I'm really I don't play Geese in KOF, like, I've never played him, but he is such a perfect fit for Tekken, like, both with his moves and the entire theme. And just how he was announced, like, I was listening to our last episode the other day, and we mentioned how we just love how Akuma just jumps in and beats the shit out of Heihachi in his temple, and how that's a running theme. And then this trailer with Geese Howard just starts with Heihachi meditating in his temple, and then Geese just going, "Oh, I'll just kill you and take everything you own."
Yeah, and it's a great, like... There's something about the way that Geese presents it, which is just kind of like, you've really fucked this up. You should allow a real businessman to take over here. It's just like, this series is so ridiculous, and I love it.
Yeah. I hope, because they're both Arc System Works and Harada, the guy behind Tekken, have been tweeting meetup photos, like him visiting Arc System Works and stuff like that. I sincerely hope they announce a Guilty Gear guest character, and knowing Tekken and how they're trying to make stuff make sense in the Tekken universe, I am betting they're gonna add Slayer. Like, that's my bet official here on the podcast.
That would make a lot of sense. I was gonna say, like, who's the, like, I mean, they've done villain for the other two games, and Slayer's not really a villain.
He's true neutral for most part.
Yeah, so, I mean, like, if they were going to do a villain from Guilty Gear, who would make sense? Because, like, you can't do, like, Justice. That would be bizarre.
I mean, you can't do you can't do anyone narratively, because Guilty Gear is, like, 200 years in the future.
Oh, sure. I just mean, like, art style, though, because Justice is a big-haired robot.
I don't think you could do, like, anyone. Like, I'm trying to...
Really?
Like, you could do Jam, maybe. Like, you could do Jam, you could do Chip, I'd say.
You could probably get away with Eno. It would be weird.
Actually,
No, you probably couldn't.
Actually, damn, you're right. Like, she actually also makes sense because she has time travel and stuff.
Mm-hmm. And also she's,
Well, let's say...
she's the lady with a guitar.
Yeah, let's say narratively, you have Eno, you have Axel, and you have Slayer as the only characters who could actually end up there.
Now, if they're going to do Blaze Blue, Terumi would fit pretty easily, but...
Yeah. I just... What they put in? I guess it's hard to say that something is too ridiculous for Tekken. They have a pretty high bar with Bears and Lucky Chloe and Yoshimitsu and pretty much anything.
Yeah, Yoshimitsu weirder every day, so
yeah,
who knows?
But yeah, I'm looking forward to Geese Howard. And since I've been having fun with Tekken, I'm definitely gonna be getting him.
Yeah, for sure. I put down Tekken for a while to play other things, but I probably will pick it back up for Geese. Geese is a really fun character that I'm terrible with, but I will try anyway.
Yeah. But anyway, let's move on to the actual tournaments and talk about, like, we're not gonna talk in detail about like a tournament report, like who won what and who placed in the top 8 and stuff like that. We agreed that other sites will cover that better. What we wanted to talk about more was kind of the health of the games, like how the games felt on stage and the quality of the competitive scene, in our opinions.
For sure.
So,
do you want to take it away?
No, you can take this away.
Okay. So we're gonna start off with Street Fighter because that's sort of like the EVO's big tournament, and it was a pretty good story this year. So I think overall, there's a pretty good showing of there's always the story of West versus East, right? Like how many US players are going to make it into top 8 to challenge the Japanese players. And we had 2 US players in top 8, which is better than a lot of years. Some years there's nobody. And the grand finals was a US player versus a Japanese player. And so I think the American scene seems more healthy. There's always an extent that we're kind of playing catch up because we don't have arcades the way Japan does, but
since Street Fighter 5,
it was cool to see.
Yeah, Street Fighter 5 isn't in the arcades, so now it's an even playing field.
Oh, is it? I didn't know that.
Nope. When I went to Japan last year, people were still playing Street Fighter 4 on arcades mostly.
Huh. Well, yeah, I guess that kind of partially explains it. And so it was a pretty, like, the grand finals were really exciting. It was a losers bracket reset winner. And the other story I feel like was sort of a new versus old story. There are a lot of people playing like Street Fighter V Pro that I hadn't seen before Street Fighter V. It brought a lot of people in because it's Street Fighter, and these Street Fighters get people excited. And I don't want to speak out of turn, but the US player, Punk, who is in grand finals, was, I think, new to Street Fighter V. I mean, this wasn't his first tournament or anything. He's been a little bit around, but he's a kid, and he made it all the way to grand finals, and he put on a hell of a show.
Yep.
But he was up against Tokido, who is one of the most veteran players still in the game. Tokido, aka Murderface, been at EVO for, more than 2 decades now.
Yeah.
That guy's just... no, not more than 2 decades. 2 decades. But
he has been there for a very long time. He has been there longer than I think Punk has been alive, because I think Punk is 18 years old or 19.
Yeah. And Tokido's never won EVO, and this was finally his year. And it was really... I feel like those grand finals were really insightful into sort of one of those, fighting games is one of the few esports, if I'm allowed to call it that. I know sometimes fighting game people don't like that. Where you don't necessarily age out. I mean, age can be a problem eventually, but Tokido's in his 30s, and he was certainly on point with his reflexes and his combos. And the difference there was just the veteran experience and nerves. Tokido just adapted and just did not get shaken.
Yep.
And Punk started out really strong, and then Tokido got in his head and he fell apart.
Yep, it was obvious that it was the nerves. Also, it was very impressive that Tokido was using Akuma, who wasn't as good in this version from what I remember. Like, people say that he's much weaker than he used to be.
Well, in the wake of this win, people are saying that Akuma is actually top tier, which is just sort of how this goes. I don't know how much stock to put in that. I think that was just Tokido putting in the work for his favorite character.
I mean, that happens in like every time somebody wins a tournament. But
exactly.
But one thing that I really noticed about Street Fighter, especially compared to all the other games at EVO, Street Fighter seems to have the best presentation of all the games around. Like, not just production values, but the commentators were really good. The narrative was really good. I know it's kind of weird to say that, but you have this like East versus West or US versus Japan thing going on, and then you also have young blood and new blood going on, and it just kind of put itself together like a sports movie, if it makes sense. Like, it felt very entertaining to just witness it, even though the actual game, like the actual way they were playing, it's still Street Fighter V. It's like, it was really impressive to see how they were trying to guess each other out and just predict each other's moves, but in general, it just was presented the best. Like, it feels like the Street Fighter scene, like the Street Fighter scene definitely has the most experience with big tournaments, and it shows.
Mm-hmm. And it's also, I mean, it's the part of EVO that gets on ESPN not every year, but was last year and it's this year, and it seems like it'll continue going forward. It's the part of that EVO wants to show as its like public face. It's the part that EVO goes like, if you see one part of EVO, you should watch Street Fighter. So they really go all out, and it shows.
Yeah, because as you go from the most mainstream fighting games to like less and less mainstream ones, like, you can also see the like actual commentary of it going. Like, Street Fighter was this mainstream sport, then Tekken was this kind of side sport that less people watch, and then they go into like anime and stuff. It's more like, oh yeah, people from the crew from the scene jump in, and they're the ones talking, and it's like more familiar. Yeah.
You have commentators in grand finals talking about how the person who's fighting right now eliminated them 5 minutes ago, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, stuff like that.
So,
but I think it was good though. It was a good one. I'm happy with Street Fighter.
Yeah, it was. I was happy for them, and I was honestly glad to see Akuma. Akuma, they did cool things to his design in 5, I thought, and I was glad to see that someone was able to make something of it.
I'm also glad that there was a Raging Demon finish at one point.
Hell yeah. And also, I'm glad for Tokido. I know we're not going to talk too much about specific results, but man, Tokido, that boy puts in so much work. I'm so glad he finally got his EVO win.
Same.
So I want to touch real quick on Injustice 2. I'm not a big fan of NetherRealm's style of designing fighting games. I feel like they do single player first, which I understand, but it means that their competitive multiplayer kind of suffers in my eyes. And their top 8. No, please go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I'm also not a fan of NetherRealm, because I generally think after Mortal Kombat 9 they kind of made their approach very weird, like throwaway almost, with each new game replacing the previous one very quickly.
Yeah. And I also feel like, I mean, there's an emphasis. NetherRealm is, I think, one of the worst developers for designing zoning. The way they build zoning is just, I think, really bad, really not engaging and not interesting and not good. And that's personal opinion, and you should feel free to disagree. What is hard to disagree with was that top 8 was almost entirely zoning characters, just zoning the crap out of people, except for Aquaman, who can kind of counter zoners and then just go in and chip the heck out of you with basically like 100 palm slap, right? He just does like a trident rush where he just stabs with his trident over and over and over. And if you watch Grand Finals, it was just 2 Aquamen going back and forth like repeatedly stabbing on block because it's plus on block and does a ton of chip, and so they would just trade those back and forth, and it was just pretty bad.
Yeah, that sounds a lot like their previous games, because I know in Mortal Kombat 9, one major issue was if you were a character without a teleport, zoners would just destroy you. So you were because there were so many teleporting characters, you were actively punished for playing a character who was neither a zoner or a teleporter.
Now, obviously, it's not as simple as just like zoners win, because like most people agree that Sonic Fox is the best NetherRealm fighter player right now.
Yeah.
And he played like Deadshot, who is like the most zoning heavy character, and he got knocked out pretty quickly. I don't think he made top 8. He may have barely made top 8. I may be misremembering, but he certainly didn't make anywhere near grand finals. And if it were just as simple as zoners win, then he would have, taken the whole thing, or at least made it to grand finals. But like, I feel like the game's in an unhealthy place, and I don't like NetherRealm fighters, but I have watched tournaments with NetherRealm fighters before and been like, okay, this is cool. You're doing cool stuff. And it just seems like the meta's in a pretty unhealthy place to me.
Yeah, they had that problem with Injustice 1 as well. So I'm not too surprised.
So Guilty Gear Top 8 and Grand Finals, respectively, there was a good mix of characters in there, and it was pretty good to watch. I feel like it wasn't as exciting as the other ones. There was sort of some. I felt by the time Grand Finals came around, I knew who was going to win, and I was totally right. There wasn't this like these other games like Street Fighter, or like we're going to talk about Tekken and BlazBlue. There were these like amazing like losers bracket comebacks and stuff. And maybe in a different year, Guilty Gear would have looked cooler, but it was just like, oh no, the person who you thought was going to win won, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was Omito on his Johnny, and like through what I saw of that tournament, I think I saw top 16 and up. His Johnny was unreal. Like if I probably could find some clips, if I knew how to look for them. They're hard to find the right ones when you're just like Johnny amazing shit, right? That doesn't work in Google. But like he would do these, he would get a random hit off of like just a random like zoning like anti-air, and he would have like 3 frames to recognize that he'd hit and convert on it, and he would do it perfectly. It was astonishing how good he was. And yeah, he put on a hell of a show, and Top 8 had a good variety of characters, but Grand Finals went exactly the way I expected. So
yeah, Johnny seems like Johnny's been always pretty good, like even in old Guilty Gears, which is also weird because I think he doesn't have the least moves, but he is among the character with the least moves in the game. Like he doesn't have too much variety between what he can do, but all his options were always fairly strong.
Mm.
I mean, at least I'm just glad Leo didn't win. I really don't like Leo.
Yeah, he is not my favorite character.
But
I should play. I'm saying it again, second time this podcast, but I should play some Revelator, because I always liked Johnny's design, and him being in Revelator now seems fun.
Yeah, one thing I do notice now looking at the list of like top 50, like Raven is pretty common, which I don't find surprising, and I remember reading an interview where the studio behind the game, where Arc System Works, didn't find that surprising either. Like he is pretty hard to pin down. He's pretty strong, but again, that didn't win. I'm guessing people just had a lot of matchup experience with him before going to the tournament. But one thing I did watch for a change was Tekken.
How did you like Tekken Grand Finals? And if you saw more of Top 8 than that as well.
I was fairly excited over it. It had really good... it's basically a person playing Heihachi versus Jack. And it was one of the only grand finals where there was a character switch, where the Heihachi player went to Dragunov.
Oh, it was the Jack player, I think. No, you're right.
No?
You're right. It was the Heihachi player.
Yeah.
I got mixed up.
Yeah. And that was really good. One thing I liked about it compared to Street Fighter is that it's one of those games where in the finals the two players were familiar with each other, like to the point where they're from the same team, like the esports team. They were from Echo Fox. So they know how how the other one plays. And you could tell that in the actual matches because they were really good at predicting each other's moves, but they were also blindsided by stuff you wouldn't expect because they were trying to, just do something to surprise the other person because you're so used to the other player. Like there was this one moment where the Jack player was just doing massive dashes in front of the other player without attacking, and the guy who was defending wasn't attacking either because they were both expecting an attack at any moment. So it was just like this weird moment where you see Jack just pushing against Heihachi and pushing him away for 3 full seconds.
It was so good. Oh, the mind games in that moment. It was just like, oh man, these two are so like. It was fantastic. There was one point where Jack got I think at that point he was on Dragunov, but got him in the corner, and Jack has this like whirlwind wind up punch.
Yeah.
And you can hear this sort of AI voice counting just this 1, 2, 3, and he got up to 3, which would have been unblockable before the Heihachi at that point Dragunov like finally sidestepped, because it was just like, oh, he never charges it up. He only ever does 1, and so the player knew that and was just like completely caught off guard. He still missed, but it was like it was this close.
Yeah.
There was a lot of oof.
Yeah,
it was great.
The Jack player being Saint and the Dragunov player being JDCR, but they're both from the same team, and they're both from Korea, which is typical for Tekken, like top 8.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Saint 14 especially. Well, I guess both of them are frequent top 8 players. They're very good.
Yeah. But yeah, it was pretty good. I do think that the slow-mo effect, like before you do the finishing blow in a round, is excellent. Like probably one of the best things they've added to the new Tekken.
Yeah, like I like it quite well in my casuals. That's fun, but on the big stage, it's such a good spectator experience. It's really exciting. And I saw a lot of people who were watching Evo who like are just sort of like, okay, this is fun, whatever, got so excited at those moments in Tekken, and sort of like it really conveys that tension right there. That's really good.
Yeah, they've designed it well. I know Guilty Gear does it like as a random chant sometimes, but it's not nearly as exciting as it is in Tekken.
Pretty good.
Yeah, and the final game I think we'll cover is BlazBlue, since we both play that quite a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you enjoy BlazBlue?
I had a few little tiny beefs because I know the game so well. Like I'm sure I would have had more problems with other games that I knew better. The character variety in the top 32 was fantastic. We had a ton of characters. But I do feel like it showed off how some of the characters play in ways that's really frustrating and hard to deal with. I mean, you saw Izanamis and Arakunes doing what those characters do, and I was like, oh, this is really crap. And hey, the character that won Evo was a Jin, just like honest, legit as hell.
Yeah, it was just for me, it's very frustrating to see BlazBlue zoners on these big tournaments, not because like I personally dislike them. It's just I think they make for a much poorer viewing experience. Because like when I was looking at the grand finals, I was trying to just kind of think about, okay, somebody who has never watched BlazBlue, what can they notice? And it's just, all the meters, all the bars, all the custom bars, just all this weird stuff going on, all the cancels and special meter use, like with Jin. It's kind of hard to follow it all. But then if you just take that away, it almost looks like, the Jin player as a character in Dark Souls fighting a boss. Like, it almost feels like you're fighting a boss in a single-player game than fighting another person because of the way zoning and puppet characters work in that game. Mm-hmm. And that's not to say that the car player was, bad or anything. Like all the zoners were playing very skillfully. It's mostly just trying to constantly find an opening while being assaulted and forced to block all the time.
And I feel like, especially Arakune is one of the best examples of. Arakune looks like, if you're watching it and you don't know super well, Arakune looks like he just wins rounds for free, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, oh no, he got curse and it's over and he just won, right? But the thing is, getting curse for Arakune is like he's putting a bunch of money in the bank and then he cashes it in for the kill. Arakune has to do a lot of work to get there. I don't love the Arakune design personally, but it's not free. He worked for that. It's just, but watching, you cannot tell at all. It just looks like, oh, this meter filled up and now the other person dies.
Yeah.
It just feels like garbage.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a good thing to watch. But it also brings in this frame of, if you have, say, Jin and Carl, I would bet money that more people were cheering on Fenrich's Jin because he felt like the underdog in that. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, look, sure. He has to go in and hit with his sword, while this guy just gets you in a corner, or gets you between him and the puppet, and you're dead. And Fenrich was doing a lot of crazy risky stuff, which I liked. It was pretty amazing. There was this one moment where he kept backdashing into a corner. And I'm like, why are you intentionally backdashing into a corner? That's where he wants you. And then he just slips between Carl and the puppet. And then all of a sudden, Carl's in the corner and at a disadvantage. And I'm like, wow, that was pretty risky. He could have just kept you there if you made a mistake. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he played really brave, and it was really great to see. I played a lot of Jin in Continuum Shift, and I like that character design a lot.
I do wish he did at least one Yukikaze, because nobody would have expected that.
This is what they should do. They should fix. I'm sorry, I'm probably going a little too into technical details, but they should really fix Yukikaze for 2.0, because Yukikaze on Jin is so useless.
It is.
Because the whole point is that Hakumen's doesn't have a super flash, so he can catch you with it. Jin's has a super flash. Jin's might as well pause the game and put big text says Jin is doing a counter super. You should probably stand still. It's so useless.
I mean, that's how it worked for Hakumen originally in the first place. Blue, hello. I had a really hard time with that, so I know. But yeah, I feel the health of BlazBlue is really good, and I feel that for viewers, zoning characters, to play them, it's fun, but just to watch them feels very, not boring, but very weird, very hard to cheer for. It's the kind of play that it's hard to just say, oh yeah, I'm rooting for Carl or Arakune. It's very rare to see that unless you actually genuinely the characters. But it also seems like Arc System Works realizes that, because all the puppet characters and Arakune got major nerfs system-wide for the next update. Mm-hmm. Because they made it so that now you can't actually use dolls or summon bugs while you're doing something else.
Which is massive.
Yep, it's a massive game changer.
I worry it's an over nerf. I mean, I we'll see. I don't want to be too knee jerk, but that's that's their game. That is what they do. Yeah,
BlazBlue does kneecap nerfs. Guilty Gear not so much, but I know BlazBlue has just destroyed characters in certain versions without regard.
Sorry, Tsubaki.
Yeah. or Hakumen and Chrono Phantasma Extend.
Yeah. Or Noelle, honestly. Yeah. it happens sometimes. I hope this isn't a case of that, because I do want these characters to still be relevant. Like, but like you watched, like in top 32, I saw an Arakune versus Arakune, and I saw an Izanami versus Izanami, and both of those matches were nonsense. You can't convince me that those players knew what was happening. They had no idea. It was nonsense.
Yeah.
And clearly that, this cannot continue, right?
Yeah. I do like that, aside from the character variety, and this is also true for, I think, Guilty Gear, and maybe like Street Fighter, that the player variety is different as well. Like, you've seen people who usually get super far into the game lose to newer names or people who weren't as good in previous years. So it's kind of like, it's keeping it fresh. It's not stale in that regard either, which I think is really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't know. Overall, I thought it was a pretty great Evo.
Yeah.
I don't know. I enjoyed a Tekken fucking tournament. I haven't enjoyed a Tekken tournament. I don't know how long. It was kind of incredible.
No, it's really good. I think it's. I'm glad that the genre is kind of getting this resurgence, and it's being reflected in the actual tournaments. And now we're getting even more new stuff announced. So it feels like we've reached a point where the genre won't get like killed or cannibalized. Like it's literally at the point of, I have enough choice to do stuff, I have enough choice to watch stuff. And since Capcom isn't the only player now, we won't have, a million fucking games cannibalizing each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like the whole genre is in a really, and the scene is in a really healthy place.
Yeah, I hope it stays there. And I hope we get more crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm. Got to give us something to talk about on these podcasts.
Yeah. Hopefully we don't have to talk about character announcements every time, but I mean, now that we have Scalomania, now that we have Geesaur, and now that we have Jubei, it's just, at this point, the only thing that could get me excited is Hagar in Street Fighter, not in Marvel vs. Capcom. Maybe,
yeah, I mean,
that would get me excited at this point. I don't know what else I can even talk about.
I mean, like, to me, Jubei was the Duke Nukem Forever of character announcements. It's kind of like, oh, it happened? Okay, well, I guess nothing is surprising anymore, huh?
Yeah. No, it's really good. And I'm also glad we have Tekken now as this friendship platform of all fighting games. Like, I hope to just pick up every single character they can from other fighting games and just put them inside. I mean, Dead or Alive has been doing that, but Dead or Alive doesn't have the spotlight that Tekken does.
Right. Get some Dead or Alive characters in there.
Actually, yeah, that would be really good. I think it would fit quite well. And then Virtua Fighter. And then just put everybody in. Just be the friendship zone.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Kitami would be a good fit. So, thanks everybody for listening to another episode of Neutral Game. You can find us on iTunes if you want to give us a rating or review there. I think we're also on Google Play. And also, if you want to tell a friend, somebody who's getting into fighting games, someone who's been at it for a while, or someone who you want to help get into it, I think these would all be good fits for them. We'll be back to more regular episodes talking about specific games in the coming months. But yeah, this one, we can't let evil go past us. If you want to find me on Twitter, I'm at 6264. If you want to send any feedback or thoughts there.
And I'm at MDKII. That's MDK Roman numerals too.
And I think that's it for us, folks. We will see you next month.
Bye-bye. 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 Bye-bye.